Okay, I am one of the resources at One Accord. So I have several things I want to show you over the next year, 6 months, or whatever. This is an old article I wrote. It was published internationally, and I was asked years ago when I was involved with these methodologies how to select the best process improvement methodology. So I came up with a framework because everybody was all confused about what it should be. So there's 4 elements to improving a company from the inside. You can improve or you can innovate products and services or processes. We're just going to talk about this time about improving processes. So I like to use a compare and contrast type of methodology. So I selected three methodologies: Six Sigma, Lean, and Theory of Constraints, and then created some categories that I wanted to compare the 3 together: theory, application, and guidelines. And I'm not going to go into each one of these individually. This is primarily, I created this article for my own personal use to help me explain to other people. So bear with me. I usually like to talk in 2-word phrases, an active verb and a measurable noun. But sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. It works. So this is the first one. I says, okay, what's the main theory of each one of these methodologies? Each methodology always has a guideline, application guideline, and these are the 3 or 5 of each one that on all 3. There's usually a focus. Now, let's add some more. We're going to add some more categories to compare them. There are some basic assumptions for Lean and Six Sigma and Theory of Constraints. I'm going to let you read these because you can read them faster. I'd bore you to death with talking about it. Then I said there's some primary effects. And what are the primary effects for each one of these programs? And then I said there's a secondary effect. Now, I can't make the pointer work, but if you'll notice, the primary effect of Six Sigma shows up as a secondary effect in Lean. And if you look at Lean's primary effect, it shows up as a secondary effect in Six Sigma and Lean and Theory of Constraints. So that was interesting for me to understand that, to realize that. Now, this is what it looks like when you put it all together into one big chart. I added a category at the bottom, not talked about before, which is called criticisms, because I was talking to an awful lot of people at large companies, and each one of these methodologies have advocates. And I'd say, if you can't tell me what the criticisms of your methodology is, then you don't understand what the hell you're doing. Excuse my language. I'm in the Northwest. We're not supposed to talk that way. I come from the shop floor, so to hell with you. There are some general assumptions on all 3 of these methodologies, and actually all process improvement methodologies. I've listed a few of them here, mainly that the design is has to do with the design, it satisfies the customer needs, it satisfies the market, and that there's a management structure to support the change. Now, if you don't pay attention to these, they can, in fact, sometimes they appear as if a train coming down a tunnel is going to run your ass over. So you got to be careful. There are some major obstacles that these methodologies do not address. One of them is management theory. Others is policies, formal and informal, that occur in every organization. And then how do you compensate improvement efforts? And there's our organizational values. Now, as part of my putting all this together in an article, what I came to the conclusions are each methodology appears to drive towards some common results. And the primary and secondary effects look familiar. And probably most important is, what does each one of these methodologies, the question is, how are these methodologies adapted inside your organization? And I found 3 categories. There are organizations that are analytical, they're scientific in nature, or engineering. I happen to be around quite a few engineering organizations. And Six Sigma is very good because they have a lot of data, numbers, charts, graphs, all these things that actually analytical people understand means something else. Lean, on the other hand, is very visual. It's very operational. I have found lean organizations that do not understand, or organizations that do not understand that charts and graphs mean something else. So lean is good in that kind of a situation. Theory of constraints, I find a little hierarchical. And people, there are some organizations that are very only focused on the output. So the question then becomes, how do you start? If you have these three that you're looking at, how do you start? Do you determine which organization you are in? And essentially, you start with the methodology that's most acceptable to that organization, to that culture. So it's adopted. And then you start learning about the others. You learn what you can from the others, and then incorporate those into your organization. Now, over the years, I wrote this. The article was published in 2001 by ASQ. And over the years since then, I've added more categories for improvements. And you can see a whole group of them. I did that until about 2018, and then I just stopped adding the charts. The charts got too big. All right, but I also incorporated Deming, Agile. Anybody heard of Agile? Value methodology, value engineering, and then the two assessment tools, the Baldrige criteria and the ISO 9000. Now I can give you copies, the original paper, which was geared towards executives or a plant manager, actually. How do you select one is available. There's my online number for that. ASQ took the article and rewrote it for engineers and published it in their quality progress and published it worldwide. And essentially, that's all I have. If anybody would like to talk about how to compare these three or the bigger chart, I can send you a PDF of the bigger chart if you like.